Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's game of the Fab Competitive Team League Week 2, Season 2. Today's game is against between Dan from the Hyperloops and Randy from Top Deck Keep. This is Andy Modell, joined by Quinn Wanla.
Wongkew, but thanks for having
Oh,
me.
Wongkew, I am so sorry. I have a coworker whose last name is Wanla. But yes, thanks for coming again. Looks like we have a match between two of the top tier decks in the meta right now, Viserai with Randy and Prism with Dan.
That means it's going to be an exciting game. The edge maybe slightly on Viserai. Either way, we're up for something good.
Yeah, very exciting to see these heroes, especially since there was no change in the ban and restricted announcement. It's likely that we're still going to see these in the meta for the coming weeks. Now, with the way the league worked, they had agreed ahead of time not to make any changes for this week's game, depending on the announcement. But since the announcement announced no changes, we'll likely see these going forward too.
That's right. So what can you tell us about the players today, Andy?
All right, well, Dan, you might have recognized him from his number 2 winning over at the Battle Hardened in Philly. He was rocking chain then, and he ended up going very close to getting that top seat. You know anything about Randy, Quinn?
All I can say is that he's played one game so far in the team league. He looks like a newcomer, not present last season, and he currently has a record of 0-1, where he played Viserai into Bravo, star of the show.
All right. Yeah, and this is Dan's first match in the team league this season as well. So it looks like the players are getting started. They've shuffled up. They've drawn their hands.
It looks like Prism's playing first, and they're hoping for, of course, a double or a turn one, but we'll see what Dan's got in store for us.
Yeah, yesterday we saw Tyler Horsepool over on Prism, and when he got those 2 auras out in one turn, those were the most effective turns we saw. Over here, we see Dan starting with a Merciful Retribution.
And going for the poke.
Mm-hmm.
That's bold. That's going to allow Viserai to filter their hand. We'll see if it pays out.
Yeah, now, when you're Viserai up against a Prism here, are you tending to go with more of that OTK strategy, or do you want to put on the pressure?
I think it's a pressure plan where you want to attack face, make sure that their spectral shields aren't beating up, and then take your extra go-agains from Mavrians, what have you, and poke at the auras.
Yeah, and it looks like Dan was able to get out a Shimmers of Silver. This is probably one of the most powerful of the new auras, letting him boost the attack, putting a +1 counter on each of on the first one he attacks with each turn. So Merciful Retribution and Shimmers of Silver, Viserai is definitely going to have a difficult decision on which one he's going to knock out first.
Quick question for you. Do you see health for Viserai?
I do not. Maybe he's keeping track of it in paper or something on the side, or maybe it's just something that's hidden beneath the playmat. I'm not quite sure.
I'll just poke him about it and see if we can get a counter.
Oh, yep, there we go.
And
Yeah.
it does look like Dan reconsidered the 1-point attack.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Viserai on the play.
Yep. Yeah, much easier for our viewers when we can see the player's health. On some of those team games or the streamed games that you see at the major events, they'll have people put on little counters for go again and for the amount of damage dealt. Over here on TTS, we're not really forcing these players to do things for the stream, but keeping track of their health is a necessity, basically.
So, Andy, when do we get the nice big overlay with health counters and effects and card info panels?
I'm sorry, I think I lost my connection. What did you just ask?
I was just asking when we get the full production with health counters, effects, and card info sections.
You know, on the channel, I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to do that. I'm not the most technical videographer, but I can put my cursor over and highlight the rune flash as it's coming in for 4 damage.
Oh boy, it looks like
Or
we have
actually,
a
no,
slight
it came into
TTS
the
issue
merciful.
here.
Oh.
It looks like, okay, their arsenal card got sucked up in the end turn button. They were able to rectify the issue, but the Mordred Tide is face up. Anyway,
Yeah,
Prism
we
is
saw
going
that.
into this turn with. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we saw that Mordred Tide. Maybe Dan looked away during that flippening. But yeah, Randy did get rid of the Merciful Retribution, which went to Dan's soul, and Dan is coming in with a full grip in hand and that Shimmers of Silver on the board.
That's right. So we could expect up to 2 Heralds. And we're starting off with Wartune, which is great. It's a 1 for 7. Of course, it does have Phantasm, so if Viserai runs Command and Conquer, which we'll probably expect 3 of, or Runic Reclamation, which we might expect 2 or 3 of, it could get popped. Otherwise, 1 for 7's not bad. Go again from Luminaris.
Yeah, you don't get much more efficiency than that. Usually we will, as a Prism player, hope to have either 2 Heralds or 2 Auras, just to keep up the pressure. When you only play 1 Aura out there, it's easy for the opponent to knock it down, though having that Shimmers of Silver from the 2 Aura turn last turn, if Dan is able to play any Aura on top of these Herald right now, then it's likely to stick around because that Shimmers of Silver is a big target.
That's right. And this could be the dream turn with 2 Wartunes, a yellow, and a blue Aura. But we'll have to see what these last 2 cards are. Currently, it's over on Viserai to make the decision how many cards are they going to block on right now. It seems like they like their hand, especially with a Mordred Tide in Arsenal. Viserai really wants to keep a big grip so that they can get maximum value over those additional rune chants.
Yeah, Viserai is really able to make exceptional use of the value of each card they have. So keeping 4 cards in hand plus the card in Arsenal, you can get turns with 10, 20, 30 damage sometimes. So every time you block with a card, you really have to consider, is it worth, these 3 block damage versus the 5, 7, whatever this might represent on the next turn.
Yeah, and this is interesting. We've got a block with Bloodsheath Skeleton real early on. Maybe they want to combo off, but Herald of Erudition is going to ask for Skullcap and a card from hand. This is basically a must block. I don't think the Viserai has an option to let this one land.
Yeah, it could also be popped from Phantasm, but it looks like this just got the card and the Skullcap as you predicted. Yeah, Erudition is one that you definitely don't want to let hit because that 2 cards that lets the Prism player draw can be used for very good effect.
All right, I think we're going to see the Mordred Tide here, slightly weakened by the lack of the 4th card in hand, but you can bet this is a big turn for Viserai.
Yeah, Mordred Tide really gets a lot of value for every other card you have to trigger Viserai's ability, making that 1 rune chant into 2, or each of those other rune chant generating abilities. Right here, Oath the Arknight's going to create 4 rune chants, 2 from Viserai's ability and 2 from its own ability, thanks to that Mordred Tide's help.
That's right, and I don't know, my spider sense is tingling, and they might have a Sonata in hand, but it's pretty early to do that. They could consider popping Vexing Quill and going in right now, but we'll have to see where they go. Oh yeah, they're thinking about it. I swear that's a Sonata.
Well, let's see if that prediction comes true. We are seeing Vexing Quill hand. That's an additional 3 rune chants thanks to Mordred Tide.
Yeah, they've got to do something big here, or else it can't just be sword. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, if he's attacking, bringing the sword in, now I don't know, I'm not a judge right here, but is there anything fancy about Spectra and being able to activate those Spellbound Creepers? Is it count as an attack when Spectra pops it and closes the chain?
It does count as having... hold on. Yeah, we're going to have to go to a judge on that one, or a specialist on Viserai, but I think it does count as having attacked. But I think now we can see here that he has arsenaled that 4th card, which is probably the Sonata, and that's probably going to trigger next turn. So now it's on Dan to push as hard as he can to try to make that as painful of a decision as possible for Randy over here on Viserai.
Yeah, when you're going a full OTK strategy with Viserai, you want to amass a significant number of runechant tokens. Though in the more aggro build, if you can make use of, maybe 2 dice worth, 7, 8, 12, that can still be super effective to use your Bloodsheath Skeleton and that Sonata for a really large turn, able to turn the tide of the game. Right now, we have a life differential of 27 to 40 after this Wartune Herald came in, and it looks like Dan's going for 2 Heralds now with another Erudition coming in.
And this is a very well-timed Erudition. Gullcap and Skeleton have each been used, which means in order to get a proper block on here, we're going to need Skullcap and either Creepers or Skeleton. But judging by the Sonata we expect to be in the arsenal of Viserai, it might be goodbye to Creepers.
Yeah, unless it is that Randy was lucky enough to pull one of those 6+ power attacks. You don't see too many in Viserai, but it's likely that something will get sided in against Prism. If nothing else, some of those 9 blades.
Yeah, that's right. The only fear is it didn't happen on the first Herald attack, and people tend to be pretty jumpy with doing that first rather than second. Because, of course, it costs the 1 extra resource off of Phantasmal Footsteps to make that happen. But yeah, I think this is going to be a double armor block and a card from hand, but it's going to be painful.
Yeah, let's see what Randy chooses to do. Definitely his cursor going all over the place, really showing significant thought going on. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have much experience in either Prism or Viserai here, Andy?
You know, I've been trying to learn Viserai a bit more lately. I took one to my local armory tonight, and I did rather well. Prism, I used to play a little bit, but I haven't played too much since the Everfest cards came in. And it looks like over here we have the Spellbound Creepers and the Arknight Skullcap coming in on defense.
So
is
do
that
I
the
get
end
any
of
points
blocking?
for my calls? I feel like I'm running 100% so far. If this is a Sonata, I get like a prize, right? That's how it works.
You'll have to ask the audience. We'll see what they're willing to give you, because this is a low-budget operation over here.
All right, just hit that, smash that like and subscribe button, right? That's how it works?
Yeah, that's right, everybody. Thanks for watching. It looks like we have 6 people watching, 4 concurrent viewers right now. For a game with such little notice at this hour, we really appreciate all of you watching. And yeah, if you want to hit subscribe, like the video, it'll really help us out in trying to grow this. Ooh, and it looks like we have a Become the Arknight as that blocking card. Become the Arknight, a very effective and powerful tutor that Viserai has, able to get the cards that he needs to really make his hands powerful. On top of that, losing the boots, Viserai is not in a position you want to be in at this point in the game. Down 27 to Prism's 40 life.
And crucially, almost no armor left.
Yeah. Usually you really don't want to block with that second Bloodsheath Skeleton block because it has Temper. It doesn't have Battle Worn. So blocking the second time gets rid of it. You cannot use it for all of the value that you can get. Having resources basically unbound, thanks to the number of rune chants Viserai is able to build up, you get a lot of value out of not blocking with that card.
That's right. Here's the Skeleton. Play it from Arsenal. Yes. All right.
All right, Quinn, you're 2 for 2 right now.
So, this is Viserai's big plan. They went at a deficit of 13 life and all their armor. This is their moment in the game to push as much damage through so that they can gain tempo and continue fighting. So far, though, they've only got 2 successes.
Yeah,
so they're
it looks like we have 2 hits over here.
Arcane damage.
Also to note, these are all blue, so none of those really high-value power attacks. The extra blue cards will let them make a lot of use out of whatever else they have in their hand, but if they're looking to just push damage this turn and turn the tide of the game, and if I were the Viserai player, I would have been hoping to see an Oath of the Nineblade, maybe one of those red Shrill of the Skull forms. This isn't the ideal pull, and they only get 2 of those. Yeah. Oh, of course, Swarming Gloomveil. How could I forget? Probably the best attack that we've seen come out in the recent set.
One thing they are pretty happy about is they did get a meet and greet, which means after all 8 of these rune chants go off, it's almost certain that some arcane damage will have gone through and meet and greet will get go again. And then it looks like they're going with Shrill of Skull form for the second one, which also makes sense. It's a nice finisher. or a guest starter since the Mavrian has been played. That's the best you can do with blue. 2 for 5 is not bad. Let's
No,
see
two
if
for
they
five
have the
is not
blues
bad at
in
all.
hand. They pitched the meet and greet. This turn is not going the way Randy was hoping for. But 8 rune chance coming in, 1 on the back end, and 5 damage physical is not too bad. What do you think you
I
do
think
here as a
pitching the
player?
meet and greet here was actually in error. Skeletor should be reducing the cost of Shrill of the Skull form by the amount of rune chance they had. So that should actually have been a free card.
That's right. That's a mistrigger.
Yeah, I think we're going to let the players resolve that. We're not going to be calling any judges at this hour, but just something to notice for us viewing.
Yeah. Often you kind of read Bloodsheath Skeleton and you think, this just makes my Sonata Organics cheaper. But it's not true. It's the next non-attack and attack action. Reduced by the number of rune chance you control. It's a great card. All right, so back to Dan. Honestly, I think I'm inclined to just take the damage. This is Viscerai's like 1 chance to get tempo back. And if you just take a little bit of a life deficit, not too much bad can happen to you. One thing you don't want to get into, though. Go for it.
Please. Yeah, I was just going to say, usually what you do is you wait for those on hits or something that might be actually worth blocking, or if you find what is the real sauce that they kept in their hand. Over here, this is all just raw damage that we saw. Dan's still in a fine point life total, 29 right now. He's not worried about dying this turn. If he was going to block, it might have been worth saving those blocks for something later. Maybe Randy has a Revel in Runeblood as that last card, able to make a massive amount of Runechan tokens and then come in with a sword to finish it. I'm not sure if normally I would be blocking as early on. At the same time, if Dan knows that he just doesn't want to use those cards during his turn, it's all right to put them out early.
Yeah, and Dan still does have a passing Mirage on the table, so we'll see if that lasts the turn. There's 1 extra resource, 1 go again. Probably going to see the sword here come out. Question right now is it going to Dan's face or the passing Mirage? Where do you think you go with this?
So if I'm up against Prism, I want to get rid of those auras, especially if they only have 1. When the Prism has no auras out, that's when you are at your best position against them. If they have 1 aura, that can easily become 2, can become 3, and can snowball a bit out of control.
Yep.
Right here, this is probably the biggest turn that we're going to see from Viscerai. This is the turn that he's activating his Skeletor, that he's using Sonata to gain that card advantage. So he's not really going to be able to push farther than he's pushing this turn on any other turn, unless he gets a really exceptional hand.
That's right. Passing Mirage, though, is probably the lowest priority against Viscerai. It's not like Viscerai's running a whole hell of a lot of 6+. And you can see here that he's choosing to avoid blowing up that Passing Mirage and going straight to face. But Dan has been able to keep 2 cards, so it'll be up to Viscerai to see if he can withstand probably a big Herald for 7.
Yeah, you're right. Passing Mirage is probably one of the less dangerous ones to leave on the field, though in situations like this, we do have a Miraging Metamorph coming in for 7, and we know that will not be popping. At the same time, though, without Passing Mirage, if it did pop, if there was some other aura there, then Dan would be able to get a copy of that if the Mirage was popped.
That's right. There will be a follow-up with this, which is nice, with just 1 extra damage from Passing Mirage. But I don't think Dan's out of the woodwork yet. He is now at a life deficit of 5. And we're looking at a 5-card hand coming back from Viscerai. So, yeah, here's the point where Dan maybe wanted to block less. Let's see, he blocked with a Herald of Protection blue and another blue. Where do you think you go here?
So he blocked with a Haze Binding. Haze Binding is usually one of those auras that I would consider one of the higher priority ones, because whenever they get rid of an aura, you get a Spectral Shield, which can either be used as a weapon or in defending you even more. So I'm not sure if blocking the 2 block that provided was worth what he could play it for 3. If he kept that in his hand, it could easily follow up the Passing Mirage this turn to just be on the board, bring his aura count up. and make it so that when Randy got rid of his auras, it would be penalizing him more. One of the nice things about Prism is that some of her auras penalize the opponent for doing what they want to do and get rid of the auras. Merciful Retribution, things go to your soul, it deals an arcane damage. Haze Bending, you get another Spectral Shield. So those are usually the auras, the ones that punish your opponent for getting rid of them, that you don't want to just block for 2.
Exactly. But we're now on the new turn. It's Viserai with the tempo. Life totals are pretty even. Right now it looks like we're seeing a potential instant window after this Mavrian. Are we going to see an Arclight Sentinel?
That seems to be what Dan might be considering right now. Arclight Sentinel would mean that whatever Randy chooses to attack with following this Mavrian will have to target the Arclight Sentinel, and so it can't go to Prism's face, it can't destroy any of the other auras. Now maybe Randy decides if an Arclight shows up, okay, I'm just going to generate some Rune Chants, and then maybe attack it to end the turn, but it could be a dent in his plan with all of those cards he had available.
That's right. But it doesn't actually gain much space for Dan here. It's basically going to allow Dan to attack once with Passing Mirage and then Arsenal a card, which, all things considered isn't too bad. We'll just see how bad it is after the amount of Rune Chants are created by Viserai.
Yeah, Dan choosing to pitch 2 of the more powerful auras going to the bottom of his deck in order to get this Arclight Sentinel out. Let's hope it saves him a little bit. Makes it worth what he paid for it.
Mm-hmm. One thing to note here is Dan has been able to get 3 cards in Soul, which has turned on Celestial Cataclysm, which is one way for Prism to maybe get an extra few damage points out there, even on low cards. But it's not this turn. Right now we're just going to see, of course, the Passing Mirage and an Arsenal card. That's probably a Soul Shield or a Herald. And then it's back to Viserai.
Yep.
Down the deficit of 4 life.
Yeah, Viserai definitely has the tempo right now, with Dan on the defense. We'll see how long he's able to keep that for. Viserai, with a full 5 cards available, does get a lot of very explosive turns, so it could be possible that he does successfully keep the momentum throughout the end of the game.
One thing to keep in mind, though, is, of course, Viserai doesn't have Spellbound Creepers, and they played a fair number of Mavrians, which means they don't have all that many go again. Right now, they're basically just looking to use Swarming Gloom Veils and Meet and Greets, but that's the thing that's currently limiting them. And as you can see here, yeah, it's a problem for them. They had to use Oath of the Arknight to discard a Meet and Greet to grab the Mavrian so that they can get 2 attacks in.
Yeah, and I think this is the 3rd Become the Arknight that we've seen this game. And over here we have then a Spellblade Assault, which creates Rune Chants. It's a 4, it has Go Again from Mavrian, and if this hits, it is going to generate, thanks to Mavrian, 2 additional Rune Chants for Dan. Or for Randy.
That's right. But with only 4 damage coming in, it's pretty likely to see Phantasmal Footsteps, perhaps, with a blue.
The 3rd Become the Arknight.
Maybe create a Spectral Shield on the back end, and then attack with a 3-card hand. I think it's probably worth it to block. But we'll see what Dan thinks. It's definitely a delicate position. Life totals are pretty close, and you can't afford to let Viserai get you to low health, or else you're going to be suffering a lot from a whole bunch of Rosetta Thorn pokes, as well as Rune Chants.
Yeah, well, we have seen a lot of the tricks that Viserai has already. We still have only seen, I think, 1 Swarming Gloomveil. We haven't seen any Revel in Runeblood, so there is still the possibility for some very explosive turns coming up if Randy draws the right cards.
That's right. Again, biggest thing he's worrying about right now is, can I get Go Again? Prism, on the other hand, is really waiting to get a 2 Herald turn to try and take back tempo from this game.
Mm-hmm. And it looks like we are seeing a Soul Shield come out right now, pitching a Genesis, one of the most powerful auras, to get that out. but that will be fully blocking the Spellblade Assault.
There's the Revel, as we just discussed.
Yeah, so thanks to Viscerai's ability, this is going to generate 5 rune chants in total, and the sword over here is going to be 2 and 2 at Dan, followed by 8 rune chants on top of that. So a total of 12 damage coming in against 21 life.
Not bad, a 16-point turn, plus the 1 extra rune chant, so we'll call that a 17-point turn. 5 cards after all, but pretty good. Now, I think Dan is probably just going to take a lot of this, and again, try to get a double Herald turn. Alternatively, he could just go straight defense. Hopefully he has blues to block some of that arcane. But as you can see here, all the arcane goes through.
Yeah, it really depends on what that card in Arsenal is. Is it going to be something that gives Dan the momentum he needs? Or, as you predicted, will it be another Soul Shield?
Yeah, I'm feeling like it's a War Tune, but we'll have to see. And the big question is, will Randy be able to crack it with a 6+ attack? Fortunately, Dan does have the Tunic, which means... Oh, very interesting.
Yeah, here we have Herald of Erudition again. This is number 3, but there is no equipment to block it, so it's either pop it or Dan gets those card draws thanks to the Dominate.
And since Randy's thinking about it, it's almost certainly not popped, which is a great sign for Dan here. This will allow Dan to draw 2 additional cards and keep the Herald pressure going. And of course, he still has 1 aura, which is the Mirage, which will be nice to poke in 1 more damage. Oh, and that's something we even forgot. It's not poppable, thanks to Passing Mirage.
So yes, always easy to forget those.
Unless he's got a big defense reaction. But again, if I were on that side of the table and I had the defense reaction, that would be a Windmill Slam. So, Dan is going to get the chance to take tempo back from this game, something he desperately needs now that he's at a deficit of 8 life.
Yeah, we'll see how Randy chooses to block here. It looks like he's been taking his time really trying to consider what's the best he can do with his next turn on only 3 cards, or is it worth taking all 5 of this damage? Is it worth blocking just a few, even if Dan's going to get that card draw?
Yeah, and it's very likely a no block happens here. You're just saving 3 life. There's no on-hit triggers you're stopping, and as Viscerai again, a big grip, especially if you have go again, means big damage.
Mm-hmm.
But he's going in the tank. He's thinking about blocking with a card.
Yeah, he's been tapping those in his hand. This is probably a very key point for Randy. How he blocks here will likely determine how his tempo ends up going for the next few turns of the game, potentially into the end.
One nice thing about this, however, is I believe this is the last Herald of Erudition. I would check the discard if I could, but doesn't have to worry about it much more after this.
Yeah, we saw 2 others. I would be very surprised if Prism was running Remembrance, but I've been surprised before.
So, how do you call the game right now? Who do you think has the advantage in the long run?
You know, I think Viscerai was definitely having that tempo there for a while. It was very effective, bringing Dan down up from the 40 to 27 down to the 16 to 10. Dan really hasn't gotten much more aura presence. It looks like he's going for a more Herald-focused strategy in this game, which I think tends to be a bit more effective against most Viscerai builds. Dan coming in here, as you mentioned, with that Celestial Cataclysm, this is a free card from the resource standpoint, only costing cards from Soul, of which Dan still has 2 after taking away those 3. And Randy's realizing he just has to go on the defensive now.
And unfortunately, these 2 cards only block for 2 each, which basically means this Herald of Protection is going to land, guaranteed, granting another card in Soul, which is nice. And even beyond that, an extra Spectral Shield. So this is going to be 2 more damage with the Spectral Shield and the Passing Mirage. This is a great turn. Yeah, this is an amazing draw from Dan. He had the money to play the Herald of Protection, and he got the Celestial Cataclysm. Also, would have been good, a Herald of Protection, sorry, Herald of no, what is it? Wartune Herald would have been just as good. So a lot of outs for Dan, and you can see here, 3 shields, 4 cards, and only 3 life on Viserai. Things are looking great.
Yeah, funny enough, this was actually the first time we saw a Spectral Shield this game. Until then, it's all just been Herald or traditional auras.
That's right, and at this point, this is going to be really hard for Viserai to claw back into this game.
Yeah, that was exactly the turnaround turn Dan was looking for. Viserai has 3 life, Dan has 3 auras persistent right now, and he's coming in with a Wartune Herald, 1 for 7. I just consider this probably some of the most efficient damage you can get out on a common card in the game.
Exactly, and since Viserai can't take 3 damage, this is going to be at least a 2-card block. And again, Viserai wants more cards in order to activate that Rosetta Thorn, in order to get that go again. So yeah, this is the death spiral for Viserai. You're going to probably see a concession at the end of this turn, or at least a death.
Yeah, once Prism gets a board state like this on top of the tempo that they're getting from their Heralds, it is very hard to come back against it. This is why Prism is one of those heroes that you see topping a lot of major events.
Yep, and you can see the pointing out of different cards, of the different choices you could have made in the game by flipping over that Skeleton. Dan's almost certainly got this, unless he forgets to get go again.
Yeah, interesting enough, we have a Runic Reclamation coming in, blocking that Wartune Herald. If Dan were to come in with another Herald, it might be worth keeping that in hand to block it, because that could pop it. The Passing Mirage only affects the first Illusionist attack each turn, preventing it from getting Phantasm. Though it looks like Dan is coming in here with not another Herald, but just more auras, and he has secured the win.
So where does that put the Hyperloops for the weeks so far?
Yeah, so in this series right now, the Hyperloops are up 2-1, with Tyler Horsepool winning against Joe last night, and Ace winning before that. So there's still 2 games remaining, one of them tomorrow night and one of them on Sunday. Hopefully we'll be able to stream one or both of those. Thanks, Quinn, again for helping me narrate today, and thanks to all of you for watching. We really appreciate it. Please, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and smash that like button on the video. We really appreciate it. Thank you all very much, and have a good